Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne production. Available on Apple Podcasts and PodcastOne.
This episode of Steve Austin Show is brought to you free today by our friends at BetOnline.ag. We're right in the middle of summer, and the sports action continues to be blazing hot with Major League Baseball, the UFC, Major League Soccer, and now the British Open all happening. Get in the mix at BetOnline.ag and use the promo code PodcastOne for your 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline.ag, your online sportsbook experts and exclusive partner of PodcastOne Sportsnet.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
He started in a small town in Texas. Worked his ass off to become one of the most famous wrestlers of all time.
We're going to take care of business tonight, and that's the bottom line.
And now he's dominating the world of on-demand audio. And he's doing it for the working man.
This is a damn good outlet for me to spew the bullshit off my brain.
Yeah! This is Steve Austin Unleashed.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California today. I'm glad to be back. We'll be playing some of the most requested Steve Austin Show classics that have been locked away in the archives. I got a great one for you this week, and here's my producer, Sean, to tell you all about it.
Howdy, everybody. It's producer Sean with another classic episode of the Steve Austin Show. Today's episode is episode number 370 with the whole effing show, Rob Van Dam. Original air date, October 20th. This episode was a two-part episode. I am just using the second part of it. The first part covers a lot of stuff with Rob and his breaking into the business and with Sabu and everything. So if you want to go back and check that out. So that's what's going on there. But in this episode, they get into some WWE politics. They talk about Rob going into stand-up comedy, which I believe he may still be doing. I don't know. Tim Chismar can keep me honest. Also, they talk a lot about marijuana and CBD. Rob, of course, a big proponent of marijuana. They get into that topic pretty in depth here in this episode. Yeah, and Rob's still out there, too, in the wrestling scene. You can catch him on Impact. He just competed at the most recent Slammiversary event against Moose. So he is still out there entertaining you folks. Also in this episode, Steve Austin may have won a Prius. I don't know exactly if he did win a Prius or not. He could just be kayfabing, but he does own a lot of cars. A fact that you would know if you do listen to the Tuesday show. But, yeah, he may have won a Prius, so find out how exactly that all went down. And keep checking out the Tuesday show. Steve's got some good stuff coming up. He's going to be on Monday Night Raw next week, so who knows what may come of that. So, exciting stuff here on the Steve Austin Show. Today, in Steve Austin history, today being July 18th, we start off in WCW in Cleveland, Ohio in 1991. With WCW TV champion Steve Austin defeating Wildfire Tommy Rich. Then we go to 1993 in Biloxi, Mississippi. It is Beach Blast 1993 with the match featuring the Hollywood Blondes, WCW NWA Tag Team Champions, defeating the Horsemen, Arn Anderson and Paul Roma. And then we go to WWF in 1997, Worcester, Massachusetts. It is WWF Tag Team Champions Steve Austin and Dude Love defeating Bret Hart and WWF Intercontinental Champion Owen Hart. Then in 1998 in Lexington, Kentucky, WWF Champion Stone Cold Steve Austin defeated WWF Tag Team Champion Mankind. And then finally in 1999 in Bakersfield, California, it's a tag team match with WWF World Champion Steve Austin and The Big Show defeating Triple H and The Big Boss Man. I got my information from the history of WWE.com. All right, folks, stick around. We're going to have Rob Van Dam on a classic episode of the Steve Austin Show.
July continues to be blazing hot when it comes to sports action as Major League Baseball, the UFC, and the British Open this weekend keep the scene interesting. At UFC 240, it's Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar in the main event for the Featherweight Championship, along with Chris Cyborg and Felicia Spencer rounding out the card. There is only one place that has you covered and one place we trust, betonline.ag. Sign up today for a free account at betonline.ag and use the promo code PodcastOne or text Bet Now to 238-669 to receive a 50% welcome bonus. That's betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts and exclusive partners of PodcastOne Sportsnet.
This is Steve Austin Unleashed.
Can you believe, Jesus Christ, when you got in the business, you were before 20, so you've got 25 years in the business, give or take, right?
Yeah.
And I started in 89. And, man, I was looking at something the other day, and when I was researching you, and it's like, God damn, man, I did this 23 years ago, and it just seems like I almost forgot about it. But then when I look at it, I can't believe time's passed by so fast. I was talking to my wife the other day, and we were talking about when we had met and something along the way. And then another event, it was like, God damn, that was 5 years ago. It just seemed like it was yesterday, and all of a sudden, here we are right now. I would have never guessed back in the day when we were both having our runs that we'd be sitting in my house talking on a microphone. So how important is time to you right now at 45 years of age with everything you've accomplished? What are your goals with time moving forward?
So what my goal is, and this is what got me through like some really rough times. I had some rough times recently, some personal losses, kind of bottomed out and turned around and became productive. And, that's the process, whatever. But
I had heard through the grapevine that you were having a hard time, and that's all I know of it.
So I'm good now. And a lot of what got me better was learning how to just live in the moment. And it's easy to say, but not as easy to do.
Agreed.
Right. But the more that I'm able to actually just do that, just quit worrying about what I got to do later on or what could happen, next week or months down the road, or quit, oh my God, what's the future going to be like? This isn't what I planned on. But just being in the moment, especially when you find moments that are really happy, to cherish those. You know what? Here I am. The sun's on me. I'm whatever. I'm out on a boat. I got a beautiful lady. I got this and that. Whatever the deal is, I'm really happy. Let me own this. Let me cherish this, and you put more focus on that. That's for me. The more that I live in the moment, the better my spirit is, and so the better my approach to life is. It also is my main stress. I notice, like my main anxiety from doing the WWE schedule. I got to, especially living on the West Coast, I got to where, if I made it home on a Wednesday afternoon and I knew I had to leave on a red-eye Thursday, in the back of my mind, I was just counting the hours. I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired and I got to rest up. But then I didn't work out, and I got to hit buys, tries, back, and and shoulders in the next 2 days, and I got to try and catch up with your family. You got all that. I got to such a point that I didn't renew my contract because it was like stressing me out so bad. I never had enough time. I notice still now that not that I have a lot of stress and anxieties, but when I do, I notice a lot of times it's time related. I have like such a lack of structure in my normal life right now that like if I have an appointment, I kind of my focus is on it. Like, I know we're going to do this at 12. So like, last night I'm already thinking, man, normally I would, maybe get up, take, drink a pot of coffee, maybe stretch out. What am I going to do? Do I have to get up early and do that? Or do I make, I do that. It's a little bit neurotic, but it's again, self-awareness. And it always does seem to be about time, especially like if I'm going on a trip. It's so hard for me because I wait till the last day. I'm not a planner or an organizer. And like right before I go out the door, I'm, like, oh my God, why? I knew I didn't have time to sit in the jacuzzi. I gave myself enough time to sleep in every last minute I could and rush. I didn't have time to sit. I didn't have time to watch that movie. Oh my God, I'm going to miss my flight. Sometimes I do miss my flight. But yeah, it's time.
So you're not a planner?
That's fair to say.
Man, I got a brother. I told the story before. I'll keep it short. He's 2 years older than me. He'll tell me in 2 years, hey, I'm going on vacation, so-and-so. Here's what we're doing when we get there. It's all mapped out. Me, man, I'll tell my wife, I'll just wake up, drink a cup of coffee with her.
Yeah.
Shit, I think I'm going to head to the ranch. When are you going to leave? Shit, it's Wednesday. I'll leave Friday. How long are you going to be there? Maybe a week. I'll play it by ear.
Yeah.
And then I'd just pick up, pack all my shit up, boom, I'm gone. I fly by the seat of my pants.
Yeah, I looked at this address on the way here. I usually am on my phone trying to check into a hotel on my way to town, or when my airplane lands, I'm looking at the car, trying to rent a car. That's the way.
Now, I'm ahead of you on that one because back in the day after I got smoked, back in those days when we started running WCW, and before I was in USWA, everybody was riding together because it was your own ride. It was a weekly territorial system. But all of a sudden, when you get smoked at the rent-a-car counter and they ain't got shit, you got to pile in with somebody.
Yeah,
I'm a loader. Now, back then, we all traveled together because we didn't have no money.
Yeah.
But if I can travel by myself. But so after getting smoked on back in the day of wrestling, I started doing that, but you're still there?
I'm still there, yeah.
Hey, one of the wrestling questions I wanted to ask you was, I know how much fun you had in ECW and the whole effing show, and those angles and storylines that you were in were organic in nature, very raw, and Paulie, kind of creating all this, and maybe you chipped in as well. But I've heard you speak of your time in WWE as, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Was it as enjoyable as ECW? Because I think from what I read, I gathered that you didn't really like portraying someone else's angles or feelings or, I don't know, the atmosphere, because you were in an angle, some of the angles you didn't care for. Just someone else's agenda. You just wanted to go fucking wrestle.
Yeah, I just like to show off, basically. That's what I've enjoyed out of my career, is going out, and that connection when I'm in the ring, or even sometimes just with talking now, because people, now that they know me, sometimes they appreciate my perspective, what I have to say, and they even respect me for that. So that's what I've always gotten out of it. ECW was the most fun for me artistically. And then WWE was also very fun, but that was part of it. It was also very stressful, the monotonous schedule. There was a lot of politics adjusting to that, and I'm not a politician, and I don't play those games, and so that was very frustrating for me as well.
Explain the politics as you saw them in WWF.
Well, there was a lot of when I first got there. I had no idea that I was going to be there to represent ECW, so I was stoked. Tommy Dreamer was there. Tommy, what are you doing here? He threw me an ECW shirt. Like, what? Invasion angle? Dude, that's cool as hell. And I loved it. And they tried to make me a heel and some of that stuff, it didn't work. But some of the stuff, I don't remember if I cared for it or not. But, okay, so the politics would be like, I called Paul. Paul brought me in. I called Paul. Hey, all right, Paul, I'm ready. And then Paul says, okay, first you have to meet with JR at the Marriott by LAX. You have a reputation for maybe having an attitude, and so they got to fill you up.
How did they get that from?
I walked out on them.
Okay.
In '97 during that invasion angle. All right, and so
reason for walking out?
Because I was there for the betterment of ECW, and that's what Sabu and I thought. And Vince thought that I was there for a different reason, and Paul kept us in the dark about that. He told us the whole time, if there's anything that you don't like, just say the word. We'll go. We'll walk. And it came to a point, we're there to get put ECW on their TV.
He did.
Well, he did mean it. He wanted us to get heat with WWE so he could keep us.
Gotcha.
That's the way Paul was. And I told him, like, dude, they want me to put over Armstrong, Brian Armstrong, and I was like, that, and what's that going to do for ECW? I mean, he's like, and I think at the time, that other guys were beating him. At least so that's why. So I got to a point where I'm like, Paul, what should we do? And instead of give me advice, do you want to go? If you want to go, just say the word. They put it all on me, and I can't come in and do the jail. And they had been doing that. They had, and so I was like, so it forced a meeting with Vince, myself, Sabu, with Vince, and I don't know, Jerry Briscoe was there. I think Pritchard and Paul were in the corner, like talking to each other, not even paying attention to the meeting. And that's where I learned from Vince that he never would have put me on his TV if he didn't think that I was going to stay with WWE and he was going to put me in a aggressive babyface role. And I was like, what? Like, I had no idea this was the plan. And apparently Paul and he did know. So that's why that blew up. And then, I was there for ECW, and I was like, well, we got to go. And boom, we left.
You're pretty much, from what I gathered in research and just reading about you and listening to some of your interviews, I mean, you're a man's man. If you got something on your mind, or if you and a guy's got a beef, let's talk about it.
Yes, but at the same time, I also feel obligated as a professional to, right? Okay, so like, for instance, the last run I did with WWE, it seems like they had me put everybody over but Natty Neidhart. And I waited till the end before I had that talk and explained my feelings on it. And I kind of felt, but I should have probably maybe, I don't know. I don't regret it, but definitely a different approach to business would have been to talk earlier, and I would have had a different run there had I done that. But at the same time, I was like, let's give it another night and see what happens. And at the end also, it was like, okay, well, I'm accepting. Like, okay, this must be how the office sees me. They must have brought me in here just to give all their guys a win or whatever, and they must not look at me with the same status that my fans do.
It's a viable commodity.
Or definitely as a former world champion, with the respect that I get everywhere outside of the office, or at least at that time. So, but yeah, besides that, yeah, in fact, that USWA run in 91, like they had a machine. They bring you in, they go, okay, you're going to do this, and this guy's going to run in, then you're going to tag. So after 5 or 6 weeks, they said, hey, we don't really have anything else for you guys, me and Sabu and 2 other guys, Dango and Judge Dredd. Besides that, I'm pretty sure I've walked out of every, or not walked out, but I'm pretty sure I finished by my own choice from every company that I ever worked for.
How much heat did you get? I watched the interview you did with Sean Oliver. It was a trip over to Iraq, and you were resolute. You were not going because no heat.
No heat.
But it took some guts to take the stand you did.
A lot of boys
got a lot of respect for you for that. Because, all of a sudden you got 10 days off. You've been running your ass off. You know how the road days were, dude.
Yeah.
And so you're looking for your days off, and all of a sudden, hey, man, it's a volunteer trip.
Yeah,
and he was like, hey, man, if it's volunteer, I ain't volunteering.
Right.
Well, this is kind of one of those understood volunteering where you're all volunteering.
Exactly.
Not so fast, my friend.
Exactly.
It was a good story, though.
Yeah, and it got to a point where I was actually offended because, again, priorities. In my priority, it was more important for me. Just there was no way I was going, first off. And I knew that. And just the fact that, I thought that the office, they were sure that I was going, and that got offensive. Like, what? Why do they think they own my flesh? I'm telling them, I'll accept any consequences. I am not going.
Being fired, whatever.
Absolutely.
You ain't going.
Whatever the fuck you think you can do to me, bring it.
Yeah.
It became like about that, just about who was going to win with that.
Yeah.
But besides, I knew I was going to win because I knew I wasn't going anyway. But it got to a point to where I was offended that somebody thought that they had that much control over me to where they can physically put me on the other side of the world in a desert and whatever. It wasn't political. It just sounded like a horrible trip. And like you said, I was waiting for months for that 10 days off. We got 10 days off for Christmas coming up. I can't wait because I was so burnt out. I was so frustrated. And the politics, some of the other politics, working with some of the boys and them trying to politic their way to make themselves look better during the match like I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Like I'm an idiot. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, why do I have to run into the guy and just bump into him? That's what I do is I do special moves. So why can't I go to do a kick and you duck it and boom, I kick him and turn around and feed? It would be the same thing, but I'd look better. They don't really like that kind of stuff here. That was what I was dealing with,
Right.
Talking with the boys. And then what I don't think I finished earlier was I called Paul. Paul said, you got to meet with Bruce. I met with Bruce. Then when I came in, they were both pulling at me from each arm and it was ridiculous. Paul would say something to me, and be like, I got you this and this. They wanted to do this, but I told them this is the right thing to do. And then, later on I'd see JR and he'd say, hey, we did this for you. Your buddy Paul can't do that for you, can he? And it was literally, they were doing that back and forth. It was it was frustrating for me. I was like, dude, what the hell? And I guess when you're an office guy, if you bring a certain talent in that's getting over, I guess you get credit for that somehow. Because, every agent had their own guy who they were pushing.
Man, just watching you tell these stories is funny, and watching some of your other interviews before you came over. You got a great Shawn Michaels. You got a great John Laurinaitis impression. Some of the people that you do, you nail dead on. I was on your website, robvandam.com. And so you do some stand-up stuff.
Yeah.
I was not aware of this.
No.
So what do you do in your stand-up act, and how'd you get into it?
So started doing that in 2006. I don't know if any other wrestlers were doing it at the time. I didn't know of any if they were. I am a trailblazer. But I was a fan of stand-up as a kid, and I always knew that someday I'm going to go up on open night mic or some shit and try it. And I went to a comedy show, and Tim Chismar, the promoter, has a wrestling-themed comedy show where he puts this comedian goes up, and then this comedian goes up, and he treats it like it was a match, and who wins, he raises someone's hand. So I went there because it was gimmicky, and it was just dude, some of them were so bad. I was like, there's no way say that I could be the worst. And he invited me, and that's how it started. I went up there. And,
is that in Hollywood or down
originally, I've been everywhere, all over. I think this was in Ontario Mills at the Improv. But I've done I haven't done the Laugh Factory, but I used to do John Lovitz all the time, and Comedy Store, and the Improv on La Brea, and the one on Hollywood, and so I enjoy it as an artist, and that's why I do it. It's fun for me. It's mentally stimulating, and it's not something that I'm looking to switch over into. And that's the thing is like so that's why we only do it around L.A. and Vegas. I have a place out in Vegas, so these are both. I consider that's like my backyard. So. When I would get offers to travel to Texas and do stand-up, it's like, dude, I mean, I get paid a certain amount if I'm going to Texas, so I was only doing it local, but a couple times, and this is the second one coming up, I've done a tour. Another comedian books this, so what I have coming up is a 9-day tour, 9 days in a row across the Midwest, and then and we're going to film it, the whole road trip, and make a documentary out of it, and I'm stoked about that. But the whole thing for me is not like, just like with everything else in life, I'm not trying to be like somebody. Like right away when other comedians, were like, hey, if you want some help writing material, I'm like, dude, fuck you. How are you going to deliver my message? How's that going to work? And right away I was just like, and some of my first jokes were about that, about the other comedians and making fun of them.
So what's your set like? I mean, because like,
dude, I'm so dry. My sense of humor is so dry, and it's also like what other comedians call intelligent humor. So if you don't think I'm funny, that's on you.
Right.
So, for instance, I always looking for energy. I saw an inspirational speaker at a seminar, and I was watching right there from the crowd. Right, he was up on stage, and he said, "I got something for you to try. Live the rest of the day like it's your last." Because you never know when you could be walking down the street and bam, get taken out by a bus. I felt inspired. I felt like I could contribute. I stood up in front of everybody. I said, I got something for you to try. It's called the sidewalk, dude.
Here's one of the things that bothers the shit out of me, Rob. Right down the corner, there's a major intersection over there. I see these people, they're going to cross. They want to cross the street. They're standing on the corner, but they're looking at an iPhone. And all of a sudden, they just glance up and they see that they see the white pedestrian light come on, and they just because they see the light go on, they just start walking across the street. When they didn't look left or right. Man, when I'm on the streets of Los Angeles, if I'm on the streets of Edna, Texas, which is 5,000 people, if I get the walk light, fuck, I'm head on a swivel. There's going to be a lot of things that might happen to me, Rob, but getting hit by a car that's not going to happen because I got my head on a swivel. So I dig that. So if you go up there, you got like a 5 or 7 minute set, or you got an hour set?
Hour.
Okay.
I did the last tour that I did, because I've only done one tour, and that was like in April. And the night before the tour, I stayed up writing jokes. The night before the first day. Stayed up all night writing. They wanted me to do 45, and I'd only done 30 up to that point, so I wanted to make sure I had enough material. I went up, I did an hour and 15, and so after that, I just do like an hour.
But was it the same as wrestling? Because I don't know how you were, man. I got my first match down there in Memphis. It was a little spot show. Dutch Mantel comes up and goes, kid, all we need is 8 or 10 minutes of you. Be working with a guy in a hood. Go out there and give us 8 minutes. I'm thinking, God damn, what I do for 8 minutes? I know you like to show off. Back in the day, I was a shy kid. What are you doing 8 minutes? Or what do you do for 8 minutes? Well, then it's like as you go, hey, I need 20, 30. That was kind of my sweet spot. So as a comedian, how did you get your chops up? Was it a process, or like, bam, you just started shitting out the 45-minute gig?
No, I started with like 7 minutes, and then did a lot. And a lot of times now people want me to do 7 or 8 minutes because that's like a standard when there's a regular show and they want you to pop up on stage. And I'm like, artistically, now that I have like an hour, solid, plus, I can choose what I'm going to say in that hour because I have much more. What am I going to get out of doing it for 7 minutes?
Right. But how do you do you rehearse it that much? Because if you've written it, I mean...
Like I said, I'm not a planner, but what I do, so when I write it, though, I do try to remember, like, a road that goes through it, like I'm going to start talking about me, about my act or whatever, and then I'm going to talk about, maybe I'll talk about drinking, I'm going to talk about, marriage, I'm going to talk about this, that, and so I try to remember that, and I don't always stick to the same thing, and like on the last tour, like the third night, I said at least 10 jokes I'd never said before, so I'm always,
Well, you go up there because, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, it's happened to almost everybody else in the wrestling business. Every now and then you just go out there and either the crowd ain't with you or you get lost. Has that happened to you on stage?
I have yet to bomb. The closest that I can say to saying not everyone is with me is I have done a couple what they call a workshop, which is like a really small bar, a gas lamp in Long Beach, where there might be like 6 to 12 people there, and then then like if they're not laughing, then it's real quiet, and if they are laughing, it's not super loud, but
Right.
So I mean, I've been there where I'm trying out new stuff where like even if they're talking to each other, it sounds like then because there's nobody there. But no, I haven't bombed, and although this is not a challenge, I have yet to have a heckler.
Are you prepared for a heckler? You're not a planner.
I'll handle it.
Yeah,
I'll handle it.
What kind of charge do you get out of the comedian type
Well,
stuff?
afterwards, it's I'm taking pictures with the fans, and they're saying like, "I had no idea you were that intelligent," and I'm like, "Yeah, how would you?" And that stimulates me. It gets my creative juices flowing. Afterwards, like for the next day, I'm thinking about all my other projects, and I'm like writing down notes for future things I'll develop later, not even related to that. And it's such a different kind of stimulation than someone saying, "I love your Rolling Thunder."
Alexa isn't the only one with breaking news. Make sure to hang around at the end of this podcast for the latest breaking headlines on the AP News Minute.
Here at Podcast One and the Steve Austin Show, we would like to say thank you for listening to our show and would like to ask a small favor of you. It will only take a few minutes, and if you're one of the first people to do it, we'll give you something in return. We need you to complete a short survey because the information you give us can help us make things better every day. Just go to podcastone.study, and everything will be right there for you. Again, that's podcastone.study. The first 125 people who complete the survey will receive a $10 gift card to restaurants.com. Then, one person will be selected at random to receive a $100 Amazon gift card. All of our shows, including the Steve Austin Show, are supported by advertising, so filling this out will really help us out. Once more, please go to podcastone.study, and thank you for listening.
This is Steve Austin Unleashed.
Hey, before I get into the next subject, I got something I want to do that I've never done before with a guest here.
Holy crap.
Show.
I feel special.
I got this in the mail, Rob, and it says, congratulations, Stephen Austin. There's not an N in my name. It's Steve Austin. And it says, you are a finalist in our 2017 Toyota Prius Hybrid giveaway. And all I got to do is pull the tab off, and that's what I've done, Rob. And it's got a VIN number. When I pull this tab out, this thing's going to light out. I'm going to scratch this scratch-off thing there. Right there, see that silver circle?
Absolutely.
I'm going to scratch it off with a broken skull knife. And if it matches, I just pull that. Rob, you hold the lighted VIN number.
Got it.
And we're going to see right now with Rob Van Dam, we got good zen, we got good vibrations.
Positive energy.
Beach Boys.
Do it, Steve.
Okay, here it goes.
Good luck.
Okay. Rob.
All right, you got your winning numbers there?
My VIN number is, tell me if I win the Toyota Prius Hybrid. 8,
Yes.
6,
Yes.
0,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
6,
Yes.
5.
You won, dude.
You
You
lied,
fucking won.
motherfucker.
It's exactly what that says.
8, 6, 0, 3, 6. I just won a fucking Toyota Prius.
Fucking A, man.
You know this has got to be at work.
Glad I could bring that energy.
I can get a 2017 Toyota Prius Hybrid or $30,000 cash, and 2 is a Samsung 51-inch. I don't need a plasma TV, so I don't go to
Holy fuck, dude. I'd maybe read all the small print later on.
I got to read some
and,
small print. You don't,
dude, it looks
as smart
good.
as you are, you ain't
Looks
got a lawyer
good.
background, do you?
I do not.
Oh, so you don't really know.
My wife used to accuse me of that every time we'd argue, though. Just because words are so important. That's one thing that bothers me that I would consider, like one of my pet peeves is when I say something and then they go with their meaning, which is what people do, and then they reword it to their meaning. I don't think I've ever read anything about myself that's longer than a page in any magazine or anything that's 100% accurate. They take a little twist, and it's just there's always like little things. But recently, a lot of people have asked me about. So we heard that you turned down a return to WWE recently. That didn't happen. And someone asked me if we talked, and I said that in October they reached out and we talked. But I was going through a lot of personal shit, and there's always There's always a number when it's going to be worth it, right?
Right.
And I'm just saying what it would have been worth for me to do it, wasn't worth it for them. It just didn't work out. And then someone takes a twist on that, and now everyone says, RVD turns down.
No, but I love the way you word that, because I picked that up in several interviews you've done. It's like, hey, man, I can be a gun for hire if you're willing to pay X price to make it worth my while. And then on the other end of that, you recognize that it may not be worth that amount of money to them. Yeah. And so no hard feelings. It's just a business transaction. If we can come together on it, cool, I'm good. But if not, I'm good as well.
That's it.
So, and turning something down, anyway, whatever.
The shows that the wrestling that I do now, I've had like 5 matches this year. I got like 2 more on the books for this year. I'm not looking for any more than that, and I wouldn't be hurt if it was less than that. I wouldn't. When I do wrestle, it is because they meet my standards, which are up there, well above market. So, because I'm not looking to get out there every week like all of my peers are.
Dude, I dig it. I mean, I think it's important to set a standard and stick by that standard. But before I move on to the subject that I wanted to get to a while ago, as you
congratulations on the Prius.
Thank you.
Yes.
I mean, I'm assuming I think I want a Toyota Prius. Boy, if I did, put some 24-inch rims on it, drop in a 427.
They're great on gas, dude.
God damn it. Yeah. But you know what? Sometimes it's not the Prius that pisses me off, Rob. For many times, many episodes I would rant about the Toyota Prius. In and of itself, the technology is spectacular. And when you hail a cab around here, I don't know if you ever ride any cabs, back in the day.
Ubers now.
Okay, but anyway, when we was back on the road, the Crown Vic, a lot of people are in the Crown Vic. And they're like cockroaches. You just can't kill them. Same with the Lincoln Town Car. But as a taxi, when you got to get in the back seat, there ain't no fucking room back there. But the Toyota Prius, as small as that little sumbitch is, there's way more legroom. So I've come to appreciate it. Now that I potentially have won one, I'm going to drive that motherfucker with pride. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the Steve Austin show on the side of that motherfucker.
I'm starting to wonder, is it possible that Toyota is a sponsor of the show?
No, dude, it's a rib. Ain't no way I want a fucking car. I'm going to call somebody. They're going to be in a different country. They're going to give me the rigmarole, the runaround.
I don't know.
We got a damn dryer in my
Maybe not, dude.
I got a dryer in the garage. We've been calling 2 different companies about trying to get this motherfucker out of here because it's broken and it's brand new. But before we do that, I'm going to settle my energy down, go back into the zen, and I've got a book in my hands. I've got to read this thing in 6 days because Jesse Ventura is coming here on the 13th.
Yes, I need to get the copy of that myself.
This is the Marijuana Manifesto. Now, so I don't know what it's about, but I was listening to some of your interviews on YouTube, and you were talking about it potentially being or not being a performance-enhancing drug. And, way back in the day when you were in ECW, you were doing your thing. You kind of had the, as written as in Wikipedia, the stoner-type persona. All of a sudden, someone held up a RVD 420 sign, and you're like, hey, man, I'm going with that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So when did you start smoking marijuana?
Age 21. I was on a wrestling trip in Jamaica, Jamaica's first wrestling tour, and at this in Kingston at Coney Island Amusement Park, which I don't believe is there anymore. But all the boys were so excited because they had so much, handfuls of this, and I wasn't into it at all because I was taught in school that it's dangerous, it's a hallucinogenic, and it's categorized with heroin and acid, like bad news.
And at 21, if I can jump in here, I mean, I'm guessing you didn't drink. I never knew you to be a drinker, dude. But
right.
I mean, we never hung around together.
Right.
I just figured you was a smoker because I was a heavy drinker.
Yeah.
I tried to smoke dope. It just made me feel like, I'd say something and I would think, that didn't sound very good. So I wasn't a dope guy. Alcohol, thumbs up. So back to Jamaica. There you are. You're 21.
Yeah, I mean, I remember drinking the Red Stripe beer when I was in Jamaica, and that was cool, but I definitely wasn't a heavy drinker.
You wasn't guzzling?
No. People that saw me the first part of this year, they I heard so many times from people, Rob, you're drinking? But yeah.
Yeah, I heard you was pretty shit-faced, but again, you had some shit going on.
I did.
But so tell me about
and I'm better.
Your indoctrination into marijuana and your thoughts on it now, because you
like,
went into a real interesting speech about talking about from the performance enhancing part of it, like, was it a sativa or this or that? And I'm like, man, this motherfucker knows his dope.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm an advocate, and I speak to the college. I'm for Prop 19 several years ago, so we have Prop 64 coming up next month. We have 9 states that are going to be voting on legalizing marijuana. 5 of them recreational, and the rest are medicinal. We have 24 states with medicinal marijuana programs right now, plus the District of Columbia has recreational and medicinal. And it wasn't like that back then, when it was a total different world. So it was like some of the first things I heard, like I remember Tracy Smothers saying, "Hey man, keep that on the down low. If you want to smoke a little gimmick, do that, do that on the side. But they're going to be, you're going to open yourself up to trouble. They're going to be checking you at the airports and everything." And he had a valid point, but it didn't scare me away from it. And the more I learned about
it. But back in the day, not everybody was smoking. There was it was around. It wasn't as prevalent as it is today. Quick question. I'm talking slang over here. Does it offend you when I call it dope?
No.
Okay. So smoking dope, going back to the to where you're at right now with it, and how would it change your life at 21 because you've been smoking it, you're 45 now? Any detrimental health effects, like, with smoking the lungs or anything like that?
0% that I know of. And I actually have a project that I don't want to get into too much, where I'm going to be looking at all of that, because I'd like to know, and I would like to share the truth with everybody. And by the way, I'm the most honest person that I know. I am. I don't know how many people can say that about themselves, but I don't lie. There's exceptions to everything. I mean, I will tell the officer, no, I don't have anything to drink tonight,
Gotcha.
Whatever. But I pride myself on being genuine, and people pick up on that. And I try to also be transparent. And that's something that's important to me.
Here's the thing that happened to me. This was almost 8 to 10 years ago. I was standing in line at the Bank of America in Venice, right down on the beach. You've seen it. And I was standing there just minding my own business, waiting to put a check in. And someone said, "Hey, man, Steve, what's going on?" I said, "Hey, what's going on?" He shook my hand. He goes, "Hey, man, I'm a friend of RVD's." He goes, "Here's my business card." It had one of the little, green gimmick crosses on it, whatever.
Little bald dude, right?
Yeah. I said, I can't remember the guy's name. He goes, "Hey, man, I own a medicinal marijuana place down the street." He said, "Stop by, I'll hook you up." I'm like, "Dude," I said, "I don't smoke." He goes, "You don't smoke?" He says, "Why?" I mean, it was beyond him. He could not understand. Maybe being here in Cali, maybe me being one of the boys, he couldn't understand why I didn't smoke dope. And I tell him, I said, "Dude," I said, "I'm a drinker."
Yeah.
Tell me about all these medicinal marijuana things that are popping up everywhere around the place.
And by the way, my friend Sean
Nice
Cush,
dude.
Yeah, he's like a little kid. Sean Cush, they own the medical marijuana, the beach dispensary and Medical Cush Beach Club. And the other location. Anyway, he's like a little kid. He's one of those guys that, like, when I'm around him, it's so frustrating because he's like a little kid. He's one of those, "Why do you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you call so-and-so and tell him this? Why do you?" There is no why. You know what I mean? He does that. He doesn't mean to, but he just pulls the energy out of me until I blow up on him every once in a while. And say, "Shut the fuck up." It's if you ask me why it's so important to me, the legalized movement, I would say, I guess I could sum it up by saying it's a right that needs to be, it's a wrong that needs to be righted, right? But with cannabis, it is something that I have known for a long time that a lot of people could benefit from. And on the medicinal side, it's been, why are you smiling?
Because I got a story for you.
On the medicinal side, it's been said that it could replace up to 80% of pharmaceuticals, which is, by the way, why it's prohibited. We could use it for fuel. There's over 25,000 products that we can make from hemp, the plant or the seed, and the only reason that that it's prohibited is so the rich can get richer.
Interesting.
Yeah. I go into that, but you want to tell your story first?
Man, I was talking to a friend of mine that smoked a lot of dope, and I said, "Man, I'm trying to quit drinking. I don't need to drink as much as I have been drinking. Be easier, unless you get the munchies. If you take out the alcoholic calories." I've had, "Man, I'll give smoking dope another try." So I had 2 different people who had 2 different clinics, And you know all the different grades and stuff. I mean, it's endless. So they gave me 2 pretty badass joints, and I put them in like a prescription pill container, and put them in my cabinet, my RV. I'm just trying to kayfabe 2 little fucking joints, right?
You can smell them.
I feel like a criminal, dude. We're rolling through a check station on the way to South Texas, and all I got is 2 joints, but I can smell it, and I'm driving a diesel rig. And I can smell it, and I'm thinking, oh man, they got the dogs, the Belgian Malinois, whatever, go drive, walk around the vehicle. I'm thinking, man, they're going to smell these 2 joints, and I'm going to get popped in this motherfucker because it's a notorious spot in Texas where all the big time smokers get popped because they got so much dope.
Was it El Paso?
It was Sierra Blanca.
Oh, okay.
Right outside.
Got a book of stories that probably end up different.
Look up Sierra Blanca. You will. That's the only time because I don't carry any drugs. I don't smoke dope. So once we drove our 500-mile destination to Tucson, while I was hooking up the RV to the water and the power, I had to go out there and hit that joint and smoke about a quarter of it, get my buzz. And so I went out there and hit the joint, and I was like, I'm going to smoke half of it, but I know what kind of effect it was going to have because, they talk about all this high-powered shit from Vancouver and stuff like that. I want to get my dick knocked in the dirt out there trying to fumble around and shock myself.
Right.
But I think I tried it. The next night I tried it as well. And I was just like, man, it didn't really do anything for me. So I just went back to my drinking.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it's good that you bring that up. Like, first off, I got to say that I don't think that kids should stray from being sober whatsoever. Your brain is still developing. It's wet cement till you're like, 26 or something?
100%, brother.
Yeah. So I got to put that out there because a lot of people are concerned that I'm a role model and at the same time that I'm an advocate. But now the country is shifting. Most Americans think it should be legal. And there are some kids that really need the CBD oils just to be normal. Kids that have seizures and some of these problems where they're dying and they're not enjoying life. And there's so many stories now, and we've seen it on TV with Weed Maps. Sanjay Gupta did these things on CNN where he showed everybody for the first time that CBD doesn't even have the THC in it. Correct. You're not going to get, and you can take drops of it. And these kids, they go from 100 seizures a week to a couple, and they're feeling great. So no question about it. Some people can benefit, but I've never been someone that thinks everybody should do it.
It's like if all your ducks in a row, you're cool. I mean, you don't necessarily need to just go out and start smoking a bunch of marijuana. But if it's something that you could benefit from,
right? And it could replace. It could replace. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So definitely, it's.
I'm not anti. I'm not pro. I'm just watching.
But I do. For sure, people shouldn't be locked up and thrown in jail for it. It's a plant. And the thing, a couple facts. One fact. This is the one fact. If I can only say one thing, I don't know if you know this or not. Do you know how many people have overdosed from marijuana in the history of the planet?
0. Do
you know how many people die as a direct result from smoking cigarettes?
0.
No.
cigarettes. Okay.
50% of long-term cigarette smokers die. Me and you smoke cigarettes our whole life. One of us dies from that. So obviously something is backwards in the education and the focus there. And when I was talking about the rich get richer, that is why it was prohibited, so that William Randolph Hearst could make his money chopping 20-year-old trees down instead of an annual crop that delivers better fiber and is healthier for the environment to process. He didn't want that. They wanted the Rockefeller and the oils. You could Henry Ford. Do you know? I don't know if you know this. Henry Ford made a car out of hemp, and it ran on hemp seed oil. And he wanted all of us to be able to have our own stills and be self-supplying. And of course, the rich don't want that, and they just had a patent for nylon before that, and they totally went into that and destroying our earth and all that. But the truth is that that most of the negative information that we've gotten since 1936 on marijuana has been bullshit, put out there intentionally by the government. If you saw the movie Reefer Madness, that is exactly what they used. They used that movie Reefer Madness and went around and showed that to all the parents to scare them off this new drug.
Right.
So now we're like, okay, you know what? It does. Most people know it doesn't make you violent or crazy. Most people know that it does have some medicinal benefits, even if they don't know all of them. But they don't know that the federal government still has it classified as a total non-medicinal drug, a Schedule 1, even though they have their own synthetic THC pill they've sold forever, even though they have the patents on using marijuana for neurological protectants when they're able to develop those drugs. But still, it's a Schedule 1, and they just recently said they're not going to reclassify it. Schedule 1 means the most dangerous for your health and for society, and totally non-medicinal. And that is their stance. That's why if you smoke pot, even if it's state legal, the feds can, by law, come in, throw you in jail, shoot your dog, and sell your house.
Man, what do you think about some of the NFL players getting popped for smoking dope? I mean, it's whether it's first, second, third suspension. If it's legal in their state,
yeah.
I mean,
well,
it's just the National Football League, but out of all the things that a professional athlete could do, dude, smoking a little herb.
Yeah.
I just can't see a problem with that. The beating those guys are throwing down on each other, and you can't smoke a joint or whatever on your free time. I don't know if I can. I give those guys a little bit of leeway. I think I get a pass.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. So look at it this way, Rob. You got a running back. He runs a 4.40. Okay, he smokes some dope. 2 days after the game. Next time he lines up on Sunday, I don't think it's going to be a performance enhancer for him.
I don't either.
So it's going to help him chill out and maybe, get his mind off of football and make his body relax.
And I don't know what this guy's medical conditions are. I mean, we first learned they can help with glaucoma, and now we're finding out that it actually kills cancer cells. So as the science is coming in, everything is going to change. Perception changes. There's more allowance for it, but there's still... even if your state says it's okay, doesn't mean that your landlord says it's okay, right, or the company that you work for. Might not be okay by their policy, but that will change.
What about driving under the influence of smoking dope? So does it change? You said perception. Let's talk about depth perception. I've, back in the day, been behind the wheel of something when I was drinking something. Never again. That was back in the day. And no one should ever do that. But smoking dope, what does that do for the – well, you can't speak for most people. What does that do for you? Any change? You cool?
So first off, I have to point out how vague the question is, because like when you say I tried dope once, that'd be like me saying I tried to drink once and here's what it did to me. You would say, well, did you have a beer, or were you drinking like Absolute, or were you drinking Everclear? Was it a wine cooler? You would never think that all alcohol has the same effect. But people look at pot that way.
Right.
And you don't know if it was a sativa, an indica, a hybrid. You don't know.
What are those? Sativa, indica?
Yeah, so they're different. They're just a hybrid is a cross between the two of them, which most pot nowadays is a hybrid, because they've developed the system of growing to a point. They do everything indoors with a certain amount of light, down to the exact minute throughout the day in the water, and they cross pollinate. This plant and this plant. And so anyway, they're just two separate. So a sativa, there's plenty of sativas, and each one is going to have a different percentage of THC, right, different breakdown of like 90 different components that make that plant, what it is. And the sativa is generally looked on as more of a head changer, more of a functioning high, whereas an indica is more of a go to sleep, more numbing your pain, that kind of thing. So that's the easiest way to describe that. But then when it comes to the percentages, marijuana might have like 7% THC in it. If you get like top shelf, you go and I want to get the top shelf best, weed that you have, you might find something that's like 24% THC in the flower. Now you go to the concentrates, you can get like 95% THC in the wax. And that's the way that people are consuming the medicine now, is by vaporizing it, through a pen or doing dabs with a rig. It's down to a science now where they have it so concentrated. And on the other side, the more concentrated it is, the less filler that you have. No, less of whether it's chloroform or whether it's the They used to use butane to blast it. Now they've got it to where it's a solventless concentrate, so that's why it's so high. So there's a big difference in everything, and everyone is affected different by it as well. So how it would affect people driving would have to do with their own chemical reaction to it and their experience. Like, here's something too. People that smoke around the clock, especially out here in California, where it's part of the culture. A lot of my friends are 24/7 smokers. They wake and bake. They do everything. Then there's the other people that do it once in a while that think like, dude, have you ever smoked a joint and then watched like Strange Days? Dude, those people, they think that the way they're affected is the way everyone is affected. Right. So in their mind, hell no one should be driving a car. No one should even go out in public when they're high. Right. They don't understand. Everybody's different.
Right.
So a test for driving would have to be done on your present condition, whether it's, and it really shouldn't even probably be like an amount, like a nanogram amount of THC. It should be based on coordination, something like that, I would think, because the fact that everyone's different, it makes it hard to pinpoint the right thing to do in a conversation like that. The federal government started a program, like I think in 91 with George Bush Sr., where they had medical patients. Just a few. They closed the program down, but there's still some grandfathered in. There was 7. Now I think there's maybe like 5. They're dying off. But one of them, Irvin Rosenfeld, this guy, he does plenty of documentaries. Because he's outspoken, and he shows you a coffee can he gets filled with joints that he gets from the federal government. And he's got this painful disease where he's got bone spurs and it's really painful. But he tells you, he's a day trader of stocks. And he tells you, I smoke 2 joints, right before I get behind the wheel and I drive to work. I smoke 2 more when I'm there and then on lunch. And he totally will blow away anybody's stereotypes. And I'm just so glad that the actual science is coming out. Science. Let's actually look at it and forget about all the myths and all the bullshit that's out there.
What about you personally, that you're an advocate for? Like, how often do you use?
That's,
Because going back to the ECW stories, I mean, y'all would be in the parking lot, y'all's group. Some guys would come and go, but you guys were just out there. Yeah.
So here's a question that by answering it with just giving the facts out there, I had to be careful about that because certain people could take that and then use it to come up to their own conclusions or whatever. So let's just say I can hang with anybody like a superhero, and at the same time, if I take time off of it, there's not that big of a difference. So when I returned to WWE in 2013, they have a wellness program. You get fined if you get popped with a positive test. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to take the time off. It should be good for me to clear out or whatever. Anyway, I took 4 months off. No problem whatsoever. Some people that think it's addictive, I can't say if maybe certain people have that chemical reaction to it. I certainly never have, and I don't know people that do. But I can smoke heavy day after day, week after week, and then boom, if I want to, just not smoke. And for the conversation, the only difference is that I noticed, because I thought, okay, I'm going to be more productive, I'm going to be more clarity. I didn't notice any of that. What I did notice was I had more vivid dreams off of it. And I didn't find out till later. They said that marijuana suppresses dreams. I'd never read that, but I did know it'd been a long, long time since I remembered having a dream. And when I stopped vividly, even if it was a quick nap, I would just remember everything. And the other thing, which is a surprise, is when I was off of it, I could handle more tasks on my to-do list. I would get overwhelmed more when I'm medicated, looking at, oh my God, I got so much to do today. That was the only thing that I noticed.
So that would be a con rather than a pro.
Not necessarily.
If you had to define it as something, well, come on.
As far as being overwhelmed, I would say being overwhelmed would be more of a con than a pro. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sure.
Okay, so then if you're a guy that uses, so is your I'm going to say go-to, but I will, for lack of a better phrase. I'm not a rocket scientist. Do you like the hybrid, the Cativa, the other one you said? What's your go-to type thing? Or are you just like all over the place? Hey, man, I'll try some this shit. I'll do some this. Or
no,
you're too damn educated, too smart to this. So
right,
what are you looking for?
So
you remember the scene in Pulp Fiction?
Of course.
When Eric Stoltz is selling the heroin to John Travolta.
Yeah.
He goes, "This is the Choco. This is the Madman. What's the difference?" Well,
I just came back from Amsterdam. So,
yeah, you know the deal.
Yeah.
So what are you looking for?
Yeah. So, if I'm not going to, like, if fans come up to me with like really like shitty weed and a pipe. Hey, can we get, no, dude, go clean that thing up. It's gross, whatever. Yeah. And, I prefer sativa, especially, I like to function and think, but there are times when you want to chill, relax, maybe you want to sleep, maybe you want to fight jet lag, maybe it's back pain or whatever. There are times, where an indica would be better. So they all have their use. A story I just want to bring up really quick, because I think you're going to be touched by this, and if not, I don't see how the fuck you couldn't be. But so my wife had cancer, right? And she was going through treatment up at the City of Hope, which is one of the biggest cancer research centers in the country. And we were at a meeting for diets and nutrition. And there was a lady that was on stage, and there's a bunch of patients listening to her. And I saw some old lady raise her hand, and she said, "What could I do to stimulate my appetite?" She says, "Because I'm just wasting away, and I can't eat very much. I try, but, and when I get it down, sometimes I just throw it up." And the lady on stage goes, "Well, that's a problem you're going to have. The chemotherapy, causes nausea. Just make an effort. Just really try. There's little things you can do, like sprinkling powdered milk on your food. It'll give it more calories." And then I raised my hand. I'm like, "What about medical marijuana?" And she said, "I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not allowed to bring it up, but since you brought it up, a lot of patients get a lot of benefits from medical marijuana. It stimulates their appetite. It helps with their pain. It helps them sleep. It helps with nausea." And I was just offended that, and I still am, that City of Hope in California would have a policy to let these people suffer and die instead of giving them something that's fucking legal and helpful. You know what I mean? That is so offensive to me. I don't see how somebody could not care. For a while,
well, that was their policy.
For a while, I wanted to change their policy. I was trying to join the board because you had to attend these certain meetings to join the board, and I went to the meeting and was going to follow up, and I guess I got too busy. But that's still changes that I would love to think that I made a change and that these patients were getting something to make them feel comfortable while they're
I agree
suffering.
with that wholeheartedly.
Hell yeah.
Well, and that puts the medical and medical marijuana. Fuck, if it ain't for something that can help you, what the fuck is it for?
Right. But also, on the other end of the extreme, I also, I know that marijuana usage can just help with stress, which is something that so many people live with and are used to living with it and are dying from it. And they don't even know. Just being stressed out, I can tell stress ages me. If I'm worried about something, I remember when my wife and I got in one of our first really bad fights, I saw one of my first white hairs come out that day. And I feel the stress pulling me down and aging me. And so that's why my goal, as I said earlier, is to always keep my vibration as tuned up and as high frequency output as I can, so that I always feel like I'm at my best. I do feel like, although not everyone should do it, that a lot of people who have just stressful lives could have a lot better life if they just use this. And some people, they say, well, I do, but I take, pills, prescriptions from my doctor. Well, we know what that can do for you.
All right, let's give big up to Geico for being a loyal sponsor of the Steve Austin Show. Go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you can be saving 15% or more on car insurance. That's right. Save hundreds of dollars on car insurance at geico.com. Extra money in your pocket? It may just be the most rewarding thing you do today. All right, I'm giving Sean a go-home cue, so let's wrap it up for this week. Please don't forget to rate and review the Steve Austin Show on Apple Podcasts and tell your friends to check us out. Word of mouth is the best way, or about the only way we really advertise for the podcast. Many other people are in that same boat, so if you enjoy the podcast, please recommend it to a friend. And if you want to reach me here on the podcast, please send me an email to questions@steveaustonshow.com. If you don't know, you should know. I've got an IPA on the market, and I think my IPA is one of the best beers in the United States of America. It is called Broken Skull IPA from El Segundo Brewing Company, and you can find it at Whole Foods and Total Wines if you live in SoCal. If you ain't in Cali, you might be SOL. I also have a couple of pocket knives. From Cold Steel Knives comes the Broken Skull knife or the Working Man's knife, and you can find them at my Amazon store. Amazon has the best price on both knives. Just go to amazon.com/shop/Steve Austin. I'd like to say one more thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. Please support them because they support us. And if you need more info on my sponsors, check out the show description to this episode for details. Until next time, folks, my name is Steve Austin. I am on social media, Twitter and Instagram, @SteveAustinBSR, and I will catch your ass down the road.
Download new episodes of Steve Austin Unleashed every Thursday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.